Are you ready for change?
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
You're listening to Mr. Change Agent Podcast with your host, Ron Ovitt, pastor, teacher, recovery coach, author, creator of Emotional Relearning, and founder-director of Empower Ministry. How you doing, Ron?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
We've been involved in a lot of these podcasts, a lot of them having to do with habits here in the beginning. And you've come to an area, you read the title, it says, "What do you do about nighttime temptations?" And before everyone in the audience starts going, ooh, or, wondering what we're talking about, perhaps there's a tendency to sit there and you say nighttime temptations, you start thinking of sexual temptation. But there's a lot more to it than that. That obviously we're going to be talking about. But there's name some of the things that when you say nighttime, you're actually talking about literally nighttime. Right. Something about the darkness, night or something. That's what you're getting at. So, yes, there will be sexual things we're talking about, but what else is there? I mean...
Yeah, well, you hit a good point, because I've had some women going, how come you're naming that, calling it that? Because their mind goes to, men maybe watching porn. But think about it, eating junk food, right? How many people trying to lose weight say, I do good all day, and then at night the pound cake's sitting there, Mm-hmm. Or how about television binging? Mm-hmm. You got to get up at 6:30 the next morning, and there you are at 12 o'clock every night, just sitting there drooling while you're tuning the channels, Mm-hmm. Or drinking. How many people at night, man, just all of a sudden...
A nightcap. I mean, they even give it a name. It
starts with that.
Yeah,
right. All of a sudden, pretty soon, it's 2:30 in the morning, you're drunk, Depression. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to think depression's a habit, and I get that. It's a complicated thing. But there is some habitual things to depression and anxiety, and a lot of people they let their thoughts go crazy at night and start feeling real depressed. And we need to check into that, too. Shopping. Internet shopping, or on the TV. A lot of people sit there, they want to go to bed, and all of a sudden, man, they're on Amazon or something, and they're just having
It would be interesting.
I'm not talking about, my wife or anything for the grandkids,
No,
games, video games.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about my son here that, stays up to... No.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, video games can be... you get into it, and pretty soon you know it. Or internet cruising on your phone. The phone, now that people... They wouldn't think of going to the computer, but all of a sudden they're on their phone and just drooling as they're just going through it. So
you're saying nighttime temptations, and even though it can evoke different thoughts, you literally mean that there's something about night that we let our guard down, or we think it's our time, or no one can bother me, or I'm by myself and no one can see me. Whatever it is, there's something about the cover of night that brings out the demons, so to speak. Or the
timing of night. I mean, maybe a person that's working nights could have the same thing when they get home at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right, but
it's the completion of the day, I think, is what you might...
There you go. Okay, so that's what we're going to address. I just wanted to clear that up so the listeners stay with us and know that we're going to cover a myriad of topics. So we're talking about that end of the day, under the cover of night, for the most part. What happens to us? What happens to the brain? Why is it easy to slip into these temptations?
It's nighttime, we stray away from our routine, right? Often alone and undistracted. Our mind naturally fills us with an awareness of inadequacy sometimes, anxiety, discontentment. The author who wrote that book, Flow, he did a study with thousands of people and finding out that their minds were what they were doing at various random times. And this is what he said. When we are left alone with no demands on attention, the basic disorder of the mind reveals itself. With nothing to do, it begins to follow random patterns, usually stopping to consider something painful or disturbing. To avoid this condition, people are naturally eager to fill their minds with whatever information is readily available, as long as it distracts attention from turning inward and dwelling on negative feelings. I remember coming to that conclusion years ago when I was in my 20s. I remember thinking, boy, when nighttime comes, I'm not distracted, all of a sudden I start getting depressed. All of a sudden anxious and anxiety comes and I start thinking about that stuff. And I remember getting that aha years ago. Before I even went to graduate school. And so obviously we want to fill it up with something else. we've trained ourselves also to use addiction at night. We're like the dog that gets excited when you shake the box of dog treats. They can hear it. I babysit for my son's dog every once in a while, and I got a little box of treats there I keep at the house. Man, I don't no more touch that box, and he'll come from the other room, and they know a treat's coming. It's as if they are enjoying it already. And that's why they call dopamine a pleasure hormone. But the dog is not exhibiting pleasure, he's exhibiting anticipation. And that's what dopamine does. It anticipates, we gotta have it, we gotta have it, we gotta have it. Think of smoking, right? The excitement leads up to the lighting of the cigarette. Then I don't hear anyone going when they puff it, man, it's the best thing I ever tasted. The anticipation is up to the time they light the cigarette. And that's what happens here. In the early days of smoking, for example, our brain got wired and learned that cigarette smoking did something for us. Those early experiences primed the striatum, and I've talked about that a lot in our podcast, to excrete dopamine in order to get us excited to pursue the next fix. Our brains have learned that nighttime is when we get the reward, and the dopamine is pushing us for it. We think about it, at 3 o'clock in the middle of the afternoon. All of a sudden we're thinking about, man. And we're already got the night kind of plotted, So it can be a big problem. And there's another scientific fact. There's 2 main neurotransmitters, right, in our brain. We already mentioned dopamine. Dopamine excites us, moves us into action like the gas pedal of a car. The chemical that counters that is serotonin. Serotonin says, I'm satisfied. So it's okay to, hey, man, I'd like to have a dessert. It's nothing. I'm not here to beat up someone over having a dessert. Have a moderate size, watch your portion size, have a piece of dessert, and serotonin says, that was good, I'm satisfied. But here's the thing. The later you go into the day and night, serotonin is lower. Why? Because that's melatonin, that's you're supposed to go to sleep. It's there to help you get to sleep. So now, all of a sudden, you got this habit of maybe having some ice cream, and you're sitting there and you're getting depressed, and all of a sudden you're eating and that dopamine don't come on, and you're not satisfied, and pretty soon you ate like a quart of ice cream. And then you start beating yourself up, you're feeling bad about it, anything you regret the next morning. It doesn't have to be a huge regret. That's what we're talking about here. If you go, doggone, I can't believe I did that. You're up at 6:30 and you only got 4 hours sleep. That don't excite you. That's what we're talking about. And we can change. There's hope. We can change these things. And so we need to be able to overcome these things. And the other thing is, we get a third chemical is our own opiates. I mean, these things, when they excite us, porn or something like that, or winning a game, or shopping for someone and you're thinking how they're going to be happy about it, or the satisfaction from eating something sweet, well, that excretes opiates in our brain. In a sense, we become mildly addicted to our own opiates. Now, it's obviously nothing like heroin or anything, but it's still something that we do. So those are some of the reasons, and plus the other thing, I guess, is over the years we've developed a lot of triggers.
Well, Ron, you said there's hope. I think you've probably resonated with a lot of listeners. I mean, especially when you said something like, I ate the whole bag, or I can't believe I ate the whole gallon.
I just spent $100 on the grandkids.
I really don't have. I better, better transfer some money.
Right.
Well, is there a maintenance? Is there a schedule? Is there something we could do about these things?
Yes, there are. And I guess I know this from my own personal experience, because I've worked on these things in my own self. Of course, I've trained a lot of people to do it too. The first thing is you need to know that I don't really need this. It feels like, and as soon as you say that, all of a sudden your body kind of objects. You can feel it. You can feel a shift. If your body doesn't believe it, you're not going to win. So when you say, well, I really don't need it, and you can feel that kind of go on, or something, a mild thing, you need to relax and say, no, I really don't need it. I don't need it.
I've done that. It's interesting you say that. I couldn't put my finger on it right now, but I remember going for something. Mm-hmm. And I know in my heart I didn't need it, and I just said, I don't need that. And it didn't take long. I just had to put on the brakes long enough, and that urge went away.
Right. And if you feel it and it hits you hard, then breathe. Take a nice cleansing breath Let it out, because that's God's brakes. I mean, he gave us that. That puts on the parasympathetic nervous system, starts countering the dopamine in that, and so we can do that. And I would say that around 3 o'clock. Now, I have the Habit Challenge app, right? And I recommend that to our audience. They can get it on, where they get their apps for either one of their phones. And we have it both for the Apple and the Android. But it's called the Habit Challenge. I put the habits I want to break on there, and it gives me an alarm. And so if I know that something's, at nighttime going to bother me, I might set that alarm for 3 o'clock. And then I go, okay, how'd I do the night before? And if I didn't do good on the night before, I have to put no. And I don't like doing that, okay? And what that does then is gives me pause, and I start visualizing, okay, tonight I'm not going to do it. And I start there at 3, maybe 6. I sometimes 9 o'clock, if it's, get it closer to the time. But you want to be able to combat in your mind and picture yourself not doing it with a smile on your face, okay? Yeah. And a deep, man, that felt good. I feel good. Picturing yourself laying down in bed, feeling good about the fact that you use self-discipline. Seeing yourself getting up the next morning, feeling good. You're not going to die without this. You don't need that. There's other ways to get fun. There's other ways to do things. There's things you can do, or you do these things in moderation at a different time. There's nothing wrong with playing a video game, nothing wrong with shopping for your grandkids, nothing wrong with eating ice cream. So, I mean, you can do them at different times. So that's one thing. When you feel it, the anticipation, you say, this is faulty wiring, I'm not going to die. Then I would start getting rid of any triggers. If it's ice cream every night, bury it in the refrigerator, or here's one, don't buy it, for a week or two until you can create a new habit. If it's something on your computer, then either get that URL taken off your computer, give your wife a password to the computer, I don't know, whatever you got to do. Put something on the computer, say, no, not this tonight. If it's gaming, have the ability to somehow tell yourself no, so create something that's going to stop you. Move things around where you don't have the habits. If you overspent the money on certain things, you might want to put a copy of that bill and put it right on the bottom of your computer screen and say, no, not tonight. Right. Just little things, but you got to really start doing your mind.
Sort of like the Dr. Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
Hyde writes a note to Jekyll the next day, don't drink the potion. Or something,
right.
Something
yeah,
like
exactly. That. That's a good. That's a good analogy, right? And so, but you gotta feel good about that. See, you don't do things just because you feel bad. Shame doesn't work. You want to picture yourself, hey, I'm doing the right thing. I'm enjoying life. There's a proper way to do this. Nothing, if you want to play some video games, do it early in the night. If you want to watch a little TV, make a pact with someone that, hey, set an alarm, do something that's going to stop you from doing it. And it's not easy. It's not easy. So, and here's another one. Substitute satisfaction and comfort for excitement. Set a timer and say, 30 minutes is perfect. I don't need more than 30 minutes of this.
Playing
and feel yourself going, that was great. Right. Hanging up the joystick, and saying, hey, that was fun.
Or how about visualizing yourself getting up in the morning and feeling rested?
Right, exactly.
Say, man.
Exactly. You can do that. And I think another reason, keep in front of us the why. Mm-hmm. Now, some of these things are moral. I shouldn't be doing that in my mind, right? If I'm getting drunk at night or drinking, I don't want to do that. Right. If I'm looking at, porn and stuff like that, I don't want to do that.
Right.
If I'm gambling, online gambling, I don't want to do that. So, but some of these things we just don't want to do it. I don't want to gain 20 pounds,
Right.
And I'm on my way. Here I go again.
Or I don't want to be dysfunctional at work because I'm so tired.
I don't want. That's right. I don't want to fall asleep driving 40 minutes, in traffic.
There's nothing wrong to telling yourself you owe your employer a good day's work.
No,
honestly.
Right. You're getting paid, and so those kind of things. So have the why in front of you. Look at the why and picture yourself being happy with that. And another one is that I don't want to be that guy. Yeah. Picture how bad it can really get. Picture how bad it is. You got a picture already in your mind. Picture someone else. Look up your problem on the internet and then hit images and see what some of the images come up and say, I don't want to be that guy or that gal. I don't want to be that person. And put your own picture in it. Put your own face. Get someone to put your own face on the picture, whatever. I don't want to be that person.
You take a sticky note and put it on your computer screen and say, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah. And then
that'd be weird.
Right. And the positive thing is, I want to be that person.
Yeah.
So both are visualization. You use both the negative and the positive. You need to know, I want to be that guy or that woman. And I do that a lot with my own self. And I use that when I feel guilty, if I feel I blew it. You got to have self-compassion here. What would I tell my own son? Son, what the heck are you doing? Blah, blah. Yeah, maybe we'd have some straight talk. But on the other hand, I'm pretty compassionate toward my children. We need to be that with ourselves. And then extinguish its power. Every day you do it, it gets a little easier. So picture yourself that you're extinguishing its power. All right. And then I think, too, use your spiritual resources. Those of you who've been listening to us know that I've been a pastor as well, and I really believe in the power of prayer. I believe in using the spiritual disciplines of meditation and prayer and reading the scriptures and things like that, having a devotional life, and call upon God, ask Him for help. And then maybe get a buddy, admit it to someone else, and get someone to help hold you accountable. We don't like that, but maybe someone else has had the same problem. Someone else that's maybe had victory in this area. Tell them, let them hold you accountable. There's no shame in this game when we're trying to get out of it. There's shame when we don't try to get out of it. And then baby steps. Just, you can do it. Think of it this way. This is how I broke one that was real hard. I quit saying I'm going to quit it for a lifetime. I said I'm going to fast. Now, I fasted for 1 day, 3 days. I mean, there's a big difference between, fasting in the morning and fasting for 3 days, right? And so when I first started the fast for 3 days, I borrowed off the fasting for 1 day. And then, it got me through it. Well, think of this as a fast. You're going to fast from this habit just for 1 or 2 days. You can do that. You can do that. Then think of the next 7 days as a detox. I'm going to get all that out of my system. So now you're up to 10 days. And then you can go, okay, now I'm going to maintain it. And if you can get to that 21, 28 days, that's why I use the habit challenge, because it keeps counting. You'll get victorious. So if nothing else, start fasting from the habit just for 1 or 2 days, where you can picture yourself doing it.
Wow, this has been a lot, Ron. I really, really appreciate it, and this is worth listening to. And I trust the audience here will share it, play it again, listen to it, share it with others. The nice thing about these podcasts, you can have them on your phone, listen to them while you're driving to work, or share it with friends, send the link to people. You can get a lot of this at the website, empowerforliving.com. That's empowerforliving.com. You go there and hit resources. There's all types of things for you to look at. And there's a free book, ebook that we're giving away on triggers. You heard him talk about triggers. Go simply to empowerforliving.com/trigger, singular trigger. That book is there, yours free for the asking. So it's empowerforliving.com. If you want the book, put /trigger. And also check out all the videos on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, go to the search bar, and put in Mr. Change Agent. And you'll hit the button, you'll see Ron's picture come up, boom, hit it. Also, you can try Empower for Living. You'll see that YouTube page as well. Join us again on the next Mr. Change Agent podcast with your host, Ron Ovitt.